Hello, everyone. We're going to do a little talk today about helping children prepare for going back to school, if they are going back to school, because we are aware that lots of parents and teachers and therapists as well probably are concerned about how to best support children in going back to school. And we had a few ideas, and we thought we'd share them with you. I'm Louisa. I'm a children's occupational therapist, an SOS feeding therapist, and a sensory integration therapist. And I'm joined here by my lovely colleague and friend, Lara, if you want to introduce yourself.
I'm a speech and language therapist, sensory integration therapist, feeding therapist, and also a teacher.
Oh yeah, I'm a teacher as well.
Yeah.
You're a teacher more recently than I am. You're an early years teacher very recently. I'm trained as a teacher but a long time ago. You're very well qualified for this talk, you know. And I'm a mum. Yeah. So I guess the first thing we kind of initially thought we'd talk about was just trying to, before your child goes back to school, trying to really think about creating really predictable routine, because children feel safe with routines, and just thinking about how can we prepare them to understand and kind of get their bodies and their minds into that idea of we're getting up early in the morning, you know, we're going to pack school bags, we're going to have breakfast, we're going to put uniforms on. Even if you're just going to go kind of take a walk down the road on your way to your normal school, then how can we really get children like feeling in their bodies and minds about those kind of school routines? Laura, what else do you think we should add about routines for school?
I think post-school routines, and establishing, as well as establishing kind of preschool routines, establishing post-school routines, and making sure that, you know, again, thinking about the time of day and thinking about what is going to be achievable when your child does go back to school. And is it that they're going to come back into school, have a snack, have a little bit of a play, take off their uniform, things like that, and just seeing whether you can start to embed and practice those routines as well.
Yeah, and I think even if they're not, you know, even if you kind of just even walk down the road or drive down the road to where their school is and like look into the school gates, talk a bit about going to school, and then, you know, go to the park for a few hours, then maybe have lunch at a similar time that they would have lunch at school. You know, just trying to, even if the whole day obviously isn't going to be structured around going to school before they go back, but you still maybe have a really predictable routine where you play for a few hours outside, you go home for lunch, you have some quiet time, you help cook dinner or something together. But I think any way we can get children and just like really understanding that things are starting to be the same again, and you know, at school things are pretty much the same every day. And so just trying to get them used to that idea. But I think also it's really important for us to think about the fact that routines should be flexible, but just have that kind of overall structure. So, you know, if you don't get out the door by a certain time, that, you know, we're still moving towards that time. And just trying to make things really understandable, like, you know, bringing out the uniforms, talking about, you know, even if they hate wearing the uniform, they don't want to wear the uniform, maybe they're just starting to wear a white t-shirt and a pair of like blue shorts every day, just the kind of feeling of, you know, we're doing this predictable thing about getting dressed. What do you think about doing kind of visual schedules, Laura? Do you think we should, you want to talk a little bit about if parents were to do a visual schedule of home or using objects of reference or something?
And I think I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that. I think if your child is already using a symbol system, then keep using those same symbols, you know, that show that we're going to have breakfast, we're going to go out, we're going to have a snack, we're going to go and play at the park, we're going to read a story. So do use visual schedules and use the symbols if your child has that. But if they don't, if they're not yet using symbols and you don't have that symbol system at home, then feel free to grab a piece of paper and just draw grab a pen, grab a piece of paper and just draw. First we're doing this and then we're doing this. And it doesn't matter what your drawing skills are like. It might be a tree and a stick swing that represents that you're going to the park, but just to it can help children to understand that something is going to be different. This is going to finish and we're going to start something new. And so even if they're not understanding the drawings or relating them directly to activities, it can still be a really useful task. And for children who aren't yet working with symbols or aren't kind of interested in printed material like books or photos, then use objects and, you know, grab an object that symbolizes going to school, for example, or going out, which is often a backpack. So yeah, we're going out on a trip, or like we're going out for a walk, grab your backpack, put it on, and off you go. That type of thing can show them what's about to happen. Sorry, there's a helicopter coming over. If you just heard a funny noise
I can't hear it. Yeah.
So objects of reference, or using a plate to signify that it's going to be a snack time, or a cup to signify it's time to go and get a drink, or a paintbrush to signify at home we're going to do a painting activity, and things like that. So use what you have available to you. Something else to consider as well is like kind of preparing children to go back to school is having a calendar and crossing off days. And again, if they don't quite understand that, if they don't understand the meaning of time and kind of the use of a calendar, but visually representing like, oh, Monday's finished, we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we're going to school. And using that repetitive language, again, if children aren't quite recognizing that language or understanding that language, it's giving them repetition and rhythm, and that in itself makes things predictable.
Yeah, I was thinking about rhythm actually. You know, if we're doing that journey to school, whether it's in the car or walking or on a scooter, that, you know, even involving rhythm and like play and fun. And, you know, we used to do some games for children that was really struggled to leave school when I used to work at a school, where we'd kind of practice like walking around the block and coming back, like singing the ants go marching. And so, you know, as much as you can kind of involve that kind of predictability, maybe you sing the same song on the journey to school when you're like practicing the school journey, or just trying to involve kind of rhythm and fun and predictability, because that does help our brains kind of understand that the same thing is about to happen.
I like the bear hunt is another really good.
That's a good
when you're
one,
walking down the street on a journey. Singing we're going on a bear hunt. And telling the story is a nice walking rhythm.
The other thing I was thinking about when you was talking just then as well is so with the objects, and maybe as well, we were talking earlier that some schools aren't going to let them bring objects back and forth from school, but we could always still use those objects of reference where, you know, maybe they still took their school bag because that was an object that they always used before, but then they kind of left it with mum or something. And but the other thing about the routines too was the hand washing we talked about earlier, that if your schools are going to have different kind of morning routines for the children when they arrive, they might need to wash their hands. You know, maybe if you're not already doing lots of kind of hand washing games and stuff at home because you've been kind of staying in your own family groups, like maybe trying to just build in hand washing into your daily routine. I know a lot of children struggle with hand washing, but just trying to really think about the fact that that's going to be probably reinforced a lot during the school day, whereas before maybe it wasn't. So just thinking about, or if they're going to be required to wear a mask. I don't know, different countries have different, and probably different boroughs have different requirements at the moment. I know young children aren't meant to, but if they are going to have to wear masks, then thinking about that part of their routine, that's quite a big change to adjust to. So just any way that we can make things as predictable as possible for them in the lead up to returning, I think is a main part of what we'd advise.
And you can still make it fun, you know, make hand washing as fun as it can be, make you know, like Louisa said, if they are going to be required to wear a mask, if they're older children, then make things like that fun. You know, you can pretend to be superheroes or transformers, and I think go at the pace of the child and give them time to get to know hand washing, and make it fun, sing songs, model, do it with them, always do things alongside. Never expect a child to do something if you're not going to do it too.
I think that's very good advice.
Sorry, this is jumping back a little bit, but with the routines, and you know how you mentioned that it doesn't always have to happen at exactly the same time every day, but you need to be working towards it. I like to describe that as having like hooks throughout the day, and quite typically in a school day, like getting up and having breakfast is a hook. It's something that's predictable, that happens at roughly the same time throughout the day. You know, going to having lunch again is another hook that happens every time throughout the day. Reading a story before bedtime is another hook. So it's kind of, developing these hooks, these things that happen every day that don't change.
That's
and
then describing it.
Flexibility comes in between, but having good hooks every couple of hours can keep children moving through that routine and give them more flexibility for the things that happen in between.
And I certainly think building up, thinking about flexibility, and we want the children to be flexible in their ability to adapt to these new routines. That one thing that I would definitely recommend, that I'm sure you'll agree with, is just recognizing that when they are adjusting to a new routine, our stress levels are going to go up. We are going to have stress responses, because whenever there's change, especially to our environment, our routines, we all feel a bit stressed. And so to combat this stress, definitely as much kind of full body movement as you can get with your child, as much exercise, as much running around, as much pillow fights and rolling and crawling and jumping, and, you know, just really try to intersperse everything with as much kind of stomping and singing and, you know, playing as you can, to get that full body, lovely sensory integration kind of theory, all that lovely multi-sensory movement going on for them. So really try to build that into your routine now, and then as they're going back to school, make sure they're getting some good movement before school, some good movement after school, and certainly Laura, you wanted to talk about some advice for teachers, or some advice for parents to ask for teachers about during the school day.
I think during the school day, we need to be aware that these children that everyone has experienced such a significant change in their life, and it happened very rapidly. You know, there was no preparing children for this extended break, and no preparing parents either for what was going to happen.
Tell me about it.
And so, you know, for teachers, be flexible in what you offer. Like Louisa said, make sure that when children arrive at school, give them lots of movement opportunities, allow them to explore the space in which they're learning, because I know that some schools are having to change what's on offer. So the classroom might look different. Children might be coming in through different doors, walking down different corridors and things like that. So really think about building in movement, providing lots of opportunities to jump and run and squeeze and crawl into tight spaces on their own, but crawl into tight spaces and set up safe spaces in the classroom or in the learning area that children can retreat to if things are a bit overwhelming or a bit challenging. But I think something to be aware of is that actually lots of children are really looking forward to coming back to school. And hopefully that can reassure some anxieties that parents might have, and anxieties that teachers might have, that yes, it might be difficult, but lots of children enjoy being in that space. And I think it's, making it as easy as possible. If teachers can be flexible, set up carousel play activities where children have a choice of different things to engage with, and just really listening to the child and trying to understand that their communication about anxiety or worry or enjoyment or being overwhelmed might not be communicated as clearly as we would like as adults, and we have to look a little bit deeper to understand what a child might be communicating through their play choices or through their behavior. And
I think that's really lovely. There was an article recently, I think I posted it on the Sensory Children Facebook, where it said, in order to preserve children's mental health, really what they should be doing when they go back to school is really just focusing on play. And it was a kind of message to the education system saying, don't get them back in with this panic that they've missed 2 months of maths and English. It's like, get them back in with this idea of like, we need to really reinforce that they've all gone through a really massive like shift in their life, and it's been really stressful, and how can we just provide lovely like play experiences for them in a school environment to kind of really support them in the best way possible. So hopefully schools will heed this type of advice.
Yeah, and I think as well, you just mentioned there about kind of that anxiety that teachers are feeling, any educators are feeling, therapists are probably feeling, parents are feeling, and children do pick up on that. So I think it's really important to be confident, calm about this return to school, because children, regardless of their age, regardless of their learning difficulties, pick up on the emotions of key caregivers, and that can unsettle them. So, do things as teachers and parents to keep yourself calm, happy. Do the same, go out for movement breaks, and do things that make you feel good, and that will reflect as well upon your child and the emotional experiences that they're experiencing at this unpredictable time.
Really lovely advice. Yeah, it's really nice, Lara. Definitely, we all need to take care of ourselves in order to take care of children. So yeah, I think it's really good to reinforce. I think we should try to squeeze in one more tip before we wrap up our video. Should we talk a little bit about the kind of social stories, or getting photos from school and stuff? Do you want to kick off on that one?
So first of all, if you're thinking about what Louisa said at the start of this, and going out on a little stroll to school, take some pictures when you get there of different things, but also see if you can get in touch with your child's educators and see if they have a video that shows kind of any changes to routine, or any photos that they can share with you of staff in the class, because that might also be different. The children who might be attending in their bubble group, as it's being described, so that you as a parent can share and start that dialogue about, oh, look, so remember your school, or you're going to this new school and you'll see this friend and this friend, this friend, you've got your teacher, she can help you, and preparing in that way. There are some nurseries who have done some wonderful videos that show the changes in expectations of the child, because I think that's what we're thinking about here, is that returning back to school, there are going to be different expectations of the child, and this might be entering in through a different door, washing their hands as soon as they arrive, saying goodbye to mum earlier, and so if we can visually show them this to prepare, it's very useful.
Yeah, and I think certainly children for any age, I think, and if a child's starting a new school that they haven't been to before, I think trying to get as many photos as you can from the school, or gathering photos yourself, or printing out things off their websites, or getting videos from the teacher, not only the big wide shots as well. It's like I feel like children are interested in details. I think it's important to look at, like, what's the table going to look like that they sit at? What are the toilets going to look like? Like, what are the lunch table? What's the food? I think any kind of imagery we can get. And actually, I've been doing there's some free photo book apps. I've been doing little free photo books for my little boy, and trying to gather some pictures of things that have gone really well. Maybe either some pictures of when they were at school before, or lots of lovely photos of times you've had at home now, and then almost creating that idea of, like, it was lovely before, it's been lovely at home now, or else, it's been lovely at home now, if that's first time your child's going to school. And then, here's some, transition photos of us like walking to school together when we've been practicing, and then here's some photos of what you're going to be doing. So no matter what your child is, you could kind of slip those in, just to kind of eke into their subconscious that this is what it's going to look like. And then, you can read the book together before bed or something. I think just trying to make it really positive and including nice things that they've been doing too.
And I think you're right, kind of regardless of the child's age or their learning style, their learning ability, they will benefit from you kind of talking through these routines and talking through, oh, you're going to be going back to school, and just recognizing that rhythm of your language and that rhythm of pattern and that positivity. And I think, again, Louisa, these books are very useful for parents as well, to help prepare them, because it's a big change. And it's a big change.
Deep into our subconscious. It's going to be different, but it's going to be okay.
My something else, if it is possible, if your school does have an email address for your teacher or something that you can contact, and maybe you're able to share a few pictures of what your child did over this extended period of time, because that creates a dialogue and kind of a familiarity. So if the teacher's able to have that when they arrive, they can be like, oh wow, you did some painting with your mom, or you cooked cakes, or I don't know, anything that bridges that link between home and school is important. And I have a 6-year-old niece, and her guinea pig died during coronavirus, and she was desperate to tell her teacher. And so my sister did send an email. I was like, I'm sorry, but she really wanted to share it with someone. And if it's about a child returning back to a school, then they do often have really strong relationships with their educators, and they do want to share things. So if you're able to share photos at all of what you've been up to over this period of time, then it can be a good starting point for conversation and normalizing things, and making it normal to have had this time off and to be coming back.
I think on the point of sharing information with teachers too, I think that's a really lovely sort of picture that you've built anyway there. But another thing I was thinking about too is if parents are doing anything special. So as a lot of times when we see times of stress, we see children's sensory and like their sleep and their eating kind of fall off, and become more sensitive to things or need more movement, or so if parents have been doing anything special where you kind of know, okay, well, they need a much bigger like run around the park, or they need to scoot for an hour on their scooter, whereas or they're doing really well to have some like really kind of quiet time with an iPad or a book after lunch because they're finding it overwhelming. Really share those strategies with the teacher too, because parents have so many things they do all the time just as part of their routine to keep their child kind of okay. And a lot of times that doesn't get passed back to school because parents just think, I don't know, the teacher's the expert, they probably don't do this at school, the teacher probably doesn't have time to do these things. But I think as much as we can share those strategies of things that have been working at home through this kind of stressful time, give that information to the teachers and the staff. And make sure that you really explain, especially if your child's going to school for a first time and you have any concerns about their speech or their sensory needs or their behavior. I think it's really, really important to type up a document, ask for the teacher's email address, get that line of communication going, and really explain your child's needs, because teachers have a lot of things to think about at the moment, and I'm sure they want to know any of that information that parents have, but they might not be kind of seeking it if they've got other things on their mind. So,
and I think both for parents and educators, things might be different, and follow the child's lead with regards to that. And they might need things more than they needed before, or they might be finding taking on challenges more difficult than before. So I think it's definitely important to follow the lead of the child and join them where they're at and meet them there and build on that, and think about it as almost starting something new. And eventually you'll get back up to where you were and where you felt you were, but at this moment in time, returning back to school, like you mentioned earlier, is so much about relationships and regulation and being ready to learn and having that time to process these change in events. But again, you know, your child might surprise you. Children can be very resilient, and yeah, you might be surprised and wonder why you were so worried about returning to school.
That's a lovely note to end on. Thanks, Laura, for that very nice, positive ending. And certainly, if you have any concerns about your child's sensory needs or their speech or their behavior, anything that you feel like you've been waiting for a referral, or you would like someone to kind of check in on them, Laura and I are doing distance assessments and setting up therapy programs and doing parent coaching. So if you do feel like you'd just really like a little bit of support with your child before they go back to school, or to kind of help hand over things to teachers, like, please do get in touch. We're very happy to help remotely, and we've had some really lovely success with the relationships we've been able to build via Zoom with the new clients we've been seeing. So yes, please do get in touch if you have any concerns you want some professionals to look at for your child. And otherwise, very best of luck to everyone going back to school. So
yeah, good luck and have fun.
I know, it's all about having fun. You have to have fun before you can learn. Thanks so much for joining me today, Laura. It's lovely to chat with you.
Pleasure.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.